stop sharing so that.
Okay, hello. So let me share my screen. Okay. So hi, I'm Mary Laska, and I'm a Recycle Smart student intern, and this is the life cycle of electronics. So why do I care about e-waste? First, I'm a Recycle Smart intern, and a lot of what we do is waste reduction, including bin monitoring, education at schools and middle schools, and also increasing access to bins and food share for food waste. So this is just an example of like a lunchtime sorting guide that we give out to bin monitors and kids at our school. But the thing that really brought me to e-waste as something I really care about is my Gold Award project and my AP Environmental Science class, where I learned about Project Drawdown, which is a research project which looked at solutions to reach drawdown, which is the trajectory of climate change where it actually begins to decline. And as you can see from this like pie graph, refrigeration is a big part of climate change, and a big solution is actually properly managing those refrigerants. So for my Gold Award, I wanted to make a documentary with various solutions for what people can do to reduce their impact on climate change. And I wanted to do specifically an episode on refrigerants because there's not that much education about that topic. So I did an interview at Rapid Recycle, and initially I was mostly focused on refrigerants, but as I learned more about e-waste, that also became a topic I wanted to speak about in my documentary. So what exactly is e-waste? It's discarded electrical or electronic equipment, which includes phones, hair dryers, laptops, refrigerators, etc. And we're all here on Zoom on a device, so we're all very familiar with electronics. And eventually, the thing that we're watching this on will probably become e-waste. So it's impossible to like totally get rid of e-waste, but we can definitely improve recycling systems and improve the lifespan of our electronics to reduce the e-waste. And each American household throws out on average 176 pounds of e-waste every year, which is totally insane. And about 30% of the e-waste in the US gets landfilled, incinerated, recycled informally, exported for dumping, or simply left somewhere. And that's the fate of 80% of the world's e-waste in 2016. And why is this an issue? It's that e-waste has a lot of hazardous components. For example, LCD screens, which have mercury, and cathode ray tube monitors, which have lead, cadmium, and mercury. So what happens to e-waste in the US? Because the US is one of a handful of countries that did not ratify the Basel Convention, it often exports hazardous e-waste to developing countries, and the UN estimates that 10 to 40% is exported. An experiment by the Basel Action Network tracked 200 electronics sent to green e-waste recyclers, and about 1/3 went overseas. They went to rural Hong Kong, Mexico, China, Pakistan, Thailand, the Dominican Republic, Canada, and Kenya. And this is a huge issue, but this is happening mostly because exporting waste is more profitable than domestically processing it, and there's no way to really keep them from doing this because it's legal and it's allowed. So what happens after the e-waste is exported? Many e-waste workshops overseas are unregulated and unlicensed, and the workers are usually not aware of the dangerous substances that they're working with, and they're not protected by occupational laws because the workshops are unregulated. Fires can break out in junkyards because of batteries, and there's a lot of air pollution and water pollution just because all of the substances are not properly being disposed of. So one example of this issue is e-waste recycling in India. While e-waste recycling is a source of income for many people in India, it also poses numerous health and environmental risks. More than 95% of e-waste in India is illegally recycled by informal waste pickers, and these workers operate independently outside of any formal organization, which makes enforcing e-waste regulations difficult to impossible. Recyclers often rely on rudimentary recycling techniques that can release toxic pollutants into the surrounding area, and byproducts are often not disposed of properly. So in this image, we can see the insulation from wiring left on the side of a polluted pond. And this is just one example of how the byproducts of e-waste can really negatively impact communities. Less than 20% of e-waste is formally recycled, with 80% either ending up in landfill or being informally recycled. And it has numerous negative health impacts and environmental impacts. So what are the solutions? As a Recycle Smart intern, I'm very familiar with this 3-stream recycling system where we produce a lot of landfill and compost and recycling from our homes and our schools, but we also produce a lot of e-waste. So perhaps maybe we should have another bin for that. But this doesn't really get to the root of the problem. I think this is really cool though, and this is an example of a solution that's implemented in Singapore where people recycle their e-waste and they get vouchers to shop at the shopping market. So what are some potential solutions? One is extended producer responsibility to improve the materials in e-waste or in electronics so that they're simpler, more sustainable, and less dangerous. Also increasing the durability, which can be done by increasing standards or having warranties to extend the lifespan of goods. Also, there can be legislation passed to establish the EPR model, putting the responsibility of recycling in the hands of manufacturers. There can also be more incentives for repair and reuse of electronic devices and facilitate collaboration between manufacturers and repair and reuse organizations. So planned obsolescence is just another issue. Recycling and reuse can hopefully amend. Yeah, I think we all know like how much from just like 10 and 20 years ago is now obsolete and is all somewhere, probably not recycled properly. Another solution is right to repair legislation. And these are 4 aspects of legislation, but most focus on these 2 top bullet points. But the general gist of it is making electronic devices more repairable by increasing access to information, increasing access to the parts and tools required to fix devices, and also accommodating repair into the design and allowing unlocking, which is like being able to modify your device to do what you want to do with it. So one example is Apple that recently kind of made more information available about their iPhones and Macs so that it's easier to repair them. And I think that's a step forward, and it's really good to just be able to repair things so you don't have to buy something new. And obviously the last solution is the one that people can most easily pursue, is just buying less electronics that are useless or maybe are just trendy, like a new hair dryer that you don't really need or something like that. So if that's the biggest takeaway, I think that should be it to consumers, to just think about what they're buying and if they really need it, and also making the time to correctly repair whatever they can, and also taking the steps to recycle and not just throw something in the landfill. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. So I'm going to let Peter present his Fix-It Clinic slides. Hi, Peter. You can't, I think you're still muted.
Oh, sorry about the technical problems, guys.
Okay, no worries. We can hear you fine. Thank you.
Get to this screen.
So if you're having a bit of technical difficulties, I think we can move to Romina first, and then we can come back to you.
No, give me just one more second here.
Okay, no worries.
All right, are you guys seeing my screen now?
No, we can't. We were
not.
not seeing your screen.
Yeah. Okay, move on. Get back to me.
Okay, Romina, do you mind going second? You feel free to share any slides you have.
Yep, I'll go ahead.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yep, we can see them.
Perfect. Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Romina, and I'm the founder of Foodware. I'm very excited to be here today and share more about what we've been up to, and more specifically, how is technology driving the adoption of reusables. I'm gonna get started with a brief story about myself. So I was born and raised in Mexico by the Caribbean, and it's a destination that is considered a paradise to many, where we have one of the largest coral and reef systems in the world. So naturally, I've always been very passionate about helping preserve its beauty. Now, over the years, I've also watched just how much it has changed due to climate change and primarily due to human impact. And this is key for residents, just due to a variety of reasons, but the main two are really that the fact that this is a very sensitive and delicate ecosystem. And just like museum artifacts, it should be our priority too. And the local economy truly depends on this. Tourism is one of the biggest driving forces, and it has become an issue as we don't really have sustainable development measures in place. Now, if you recognize any of these containers, on the left side, we have a yogurt container, and on the right side, we have a tin of butter cookies. So why do I put these ones up here? So I grew up in a culture where you would open these containers and basically find anything but the ingredients that are listed there. So you would find rice or frozen cooked food, sewing kits, anything. And the reason why is because reuse is simply a part of our culture. Saving money is really important for us, so we reuse whatever we can. Now, fast forward a few years, I found myself immersed in science. So trying to understand what can science, engineering, and technology really do to tackle climate change. And one of the ways that I found that answer was through my studies as a chemical engineer at UC Berkeley. So it was as a student that I was looking for ways to be more involved in the space using my major, but also really understanding what are the challenges in the space. And first one was just diving into sustainability student groups at university to better understand how can my interests and background make a difference, and what are some of the ways that we can tackle this. And I also had the opportunity to conduct research in carbon capture to explore what can I do as a chemical engineer. And truly, carbon capture is a fascinating technology. And as the name indicates, pretty much you capture the carbon from the atmosphere, you collect it, and then you put it underground. It is, however, more of a downstream solution. And it felt like as if we should be tackling the problem more at its root and not afterwards when it's already out. And UC Berkeley, just like many other universities and high schools as well, they often push students to explore entrepreneurship. So what can you do? What can you take on your hands to tackle a problem? And what does it take to go the entrepreneurial path? So this is where the journey began. And our society values convenience, which is really epitomized by disposable packaging. So takeout food and grocery items are typically packaged and distributed in single-use plastics. And I actually had first-hand experience seeing this myself. As a few years back, I was a restaurant manager while I was also a student. We were throwing away food packaging by the minute on every takeout order, spending a lot of money on items that are shipped from all across the world and then only used for 5 minutes or so. Customers sometimes mentioned that they felt guilty about doing takeout and they really were just there to get the food that they love, not so much the packaging that comes along with it. But unfortunately, that was the only solution at the time that was provided. So that's what basically made my brain think more about like, what do we need to make it happen? How do we bring together bringing in reuse, this desire to go the entrepreneurial way and really create a solution that will tackle single use once and for all. And years later, COVID happened, where the problem of plastic packaging and single-use packaging pollution just really got much worse. And here's where I truly decided to focus full-time on such a problematic issue and just figure it out. So some of the challenges that we initially encountered and noticed in the space of reuse were these 4 ones that we see on the screen. So deposit systems, reusables, being able to track them, and making it very convenient. So dive deeper into this, we found that we need deposit systems so we can actually avoid losses from reusable systems. So very similar to currently bike sharing programs or library systems that we have in place, which are actually very effective and a great way to really eliminate waste because these are reusable systems that have been in place for a long time. And we also need to ensure that reusables are returned for reuse and in a timely manner, so everybody gets a chance to actually participate and be a part of it. It needs to be a very seamless transition for both and consumers that go on just to take out, but also for the vendors that are participating in this. And really something important was driving behavior change. So what do we need to actually make it as convenient for people? Because currently a big part of the challenge is that disposables are just a very convenient way and they offer a lot of this. So in 2021, Foodware was born with a vision that we think can effectively solve the single-use problem, and that is with technology tools. So how does Foodware use technology? So we essentially provide a platform where individuals can access their favorite restaurants or cafes that are also offering reusables. We provide valuable insights for businesses and organizations, basically a one-screen confirmation for them. Users are able to track reusables that they are collecting and returning from beginning to end with our in-app deposit system. So essentially we have an accountability system, so people are always encouraged to bring them back. But really the biggest impact here is the ability to get ongoing incentives and rewards. So basically for doing what they already love, which is doing takeout, but also saving the planet at the same time. And they can actually see their impact every time that they collect and return reusables, whether that's containers or that's a cup. Something that we truly believe in sustainability is that it shouldn't be a luxury and it should be accessible to everyone. And it is in fact communities that are most disadvantaged, that are most affected by the impacts of single use. So one of the ways that we have done this is basically by lowering our deposit, for instance, for the reusables to $1.50, making this lowering the entry barrier for people to participate, and also making it within reach to all restaurants of all sizes to participate. So we're based in Berkeley, and so far we've been able to integrate with the Haas School of Business at UC Berkeley. So students have access to reusables when they attend events and also visit on-campus eateries. And a key part of this has been engaging with student groups who can better connect with other peers and push their departments to utilize the solution. And in very exciting news, restaurants are already participating, and we continue to onboard more who are leading the way on reuse. So for instance, here on the right is Jeb, who is the owner of Garden Variety, the first restaurant who joined the network in late 2021. And there are now restaurants on board and more to join very soon. So in the cities of Berkeley, Burlingame, Oakland, and UC Berkeley campus itself. And there are a few more surrounding areas in the East Bay and Bay Area. Now, technology tools are very important in this case, but so is working directly and collaborating with those that really understand the communities best, such as local organizations and cities and counties. And to name a few, for instance, we've worked directly with the city of Berkeley, city of Burlingame, Ecology Center, and Plastic Free Future. And collectively, this is the impact that we have been able to achieve. So already been able to achieve 7,000 single-use containers, saved 1,000 participants already in our network, 4,200 pounds of CO2 emissions, saving from being going into the atmosphere. And we're only getting started, but the truth is that all of this is still not enough, and here's why. So our planet is facing unprecedented challenges, and really the biggest one is climate change and environmental pollution. And a large part of it is caused by single-use items. So something that requires huge amounts of energy to create and then to be shipped across the world only to be used for a few minutes or seconds. So recycling and composting just does not work. Only 9% of plastic has ever been recycled. Single-use plastic caused CO2 emissions decrease by 6 times by 2050. And at least 1 million animals are killed by 100 million tons of plastic in the environment every year. So we need you, and this is what you can do. Technology can do a lot in climate, and if this is what you're interested in, we encourage you to gain professional skills and truly develop skills in technology. Or if you're very passionate about an area already and have an idea and wanted to do something, then just start small and then really just go for it and be the entrepreneur that we all need. And beyond technology, yes, it is only a tool. There are many other ways to help and get involved beyond it. The first one being join the local efforts in your community. So be an activist. We need all the backgrounds and really all age groups to participate. So see how you can help and how you can contribute. Connect with other like-minded peers and support each other. And lastly, just spread the word. So if you're passionate about the environment, you're passionate about zero waste, so make your voice heard. That's the only way that we will raise awareness about the problem and get everyone on board and involved. That's it for me. Thank you.
Here, Romina, thank you so much for your presentation. I will let Peter now share his slides.
Okay, guys, you can hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, so thanks very much for having me. Those are tough acts to follow, so I'll try to do my best here. So for those of you who aren't familiar, we've been holding these community repair events around the United States and around the San Francisco Bay Area. We started in the Bay Area, I live in Berkeley. What we do is we put out tools in the middle of the room. We invite the general public in with their broken stuff. And then we have fix-it coaches who float around the room helping people with the disassembly, troubleshooting, and hopefully repair of their items. So this is more of an educational workshop than it is what people would think of as free repair. Okay, I think we realized early on that if we offered free repair, everybody loves that, everyone would come, but I don't know that that would really change people's attitudes around consumption. So we basically decided that what we really want to do is hold these educational workshops, and it's really worked out great. So, you know, at a typical fix-it clinic, everybody's just rolling up their shirt sleeves and helping everybody else out. So it's, you know, all ages are involved in this thing. And at a ideal fix-it clinic, the role of participant and fix-it coach blurs, and everybody's just helping each other out. It's kind of like a big party that we hold. And it's apolitical, non-denominational, non-sectarian, bipartisan. Everybody's got broken stuff. Everybody can relate to needing something to be fixed. Everyone's got that frustration. And we developed a specialty because we're in the Bay Area, it's the center of tech. We developed a reputation for being good at consumer electronics early on, but really these events are kind of like improv. You never know what the general public's going to present you with. So it can be anything. I say that you can carry anything you can carry in, we'll take a look at, basically. And that said, you'd be amazed what people think that they can carry in to one of these in-person events. And we encourage people to affect their own repairs, because when the thing starts working again and you fixed it, then like the joy, the empowerment of that is something that we want to make sure that everybody captures, and we're trying to percolate through the society. We're really trying to deploy this broader ethos of repair and not have it be part of like these special events that people feel like they have to come to. So that said, that you can come to one of these, in the spirit of this workshop, of this whole conference, you can come to these events now. In the Jamboard, I put some information on ones in the San Francisco Bay Area, but they're all over the United States at this point. And so the first thing is repair is possible, even for highly sophisticated electronic stuff that you think that you can't fix, you can probably fix it. Come to one of our events to do that. Now, gets even better. So during the pandemic, we launched these intergalactic Zoom fix-it clinics with repairs and repairers from around the world. So now you no longer have to depend on the expertise that might be at a specific event. You no longer have to fix it that day. We can continue the events online. We can continue the repairs online, and we have repairers and repairs from around the world participating. So there's this whole civics component of this that's occurring as well now, where we're all realizing, hey, like as if we didn't know it before, we're all in one big plastic bag together at this point. We can also see those big and unwieldy things that you couldn't bring to an in-person event. So this is a IKEA sofa that's in somebody's living room in Toronto, Canada. And they were helped by repairers from the Mid-Hudson Central Valley and from Lund, Sweden, the home of IKEA itself. And just to reiterate, from the upper left to the lower right, some of the places we've been: Northern New Mexico, Palestine, Scotland, Paris, France, Belmont, Massachusetts, Berkeley, California, London, England, and Melbourne, Australia. Sandeep got up at 4:30 in the morning, his time, to get help with his sewing machine. And remember, Australia had these very stringent COVID lockdown protocols, right? I mean, Sandeep could only leave his apartment to go get groceries. So the idea that he could get repair on his sewing machine, the sewing machine repair stores, if there are any, they weren't open. Okay, it gets even better. So what we can also do now is we can expand to support repair of our shared public property and community assets. So if you remember early on in the pandemic, there was this idea that we had a national ventilator stockpile, and it was totally offline, and nobody knew what state it was in and whether it could be fixed or not, or whether or not the med techs would go out on COVID. And so we stepped up, because it's an honor and a sacred obligation and a sacred duty to be able to serve, to say, yeah, we can help to fix that stuff. And luckily, we didn't have to. Luckily, the med techs didn't go out. But we also said, hey, anything that makes a first responder or critical care worker's life easier. It can be as mundane as the coffee maker in the staff break room. Let's help to fix anything in our shared society that we can do along those lines. So that said, these high schoolers stepped up and said, hey, we'd like to start doing that. We'd want to start fixing for ourselves. We want to start fixing for our classmates, for our teachers, for our school, for our broader community. So we provided them with these basic toolkits of rudimentary troubleshooting and disassembly tools. And this is not a lot of money, okay? Everything you're looking at in those boxes is like $150, if I remember correctly. And the boxes themselves, I think, were about $50 of the whole amount. But this puts them in a place where they can start to repair in their community. And okay, they're high schoolers. Maybe they don't know everything about everything like the rest of us repairers do. But the cool thing is they are now on Discord. So we have a Discord server now that supports repair. For those of you who don't know what Discord is, it's a gaming platform, online gaming platform, and we've repurposed it so that now we can support repair on there. So I've got 500 Fix-It coaches from around the world, with all sorts of expertise, and they can back up any repair. So you can get on Discord. I put the joining Discord instructions in the Jamboard so that anybody on this Zoom right now can go join Discord and open a ticket for something broken, and we'll try to help you. So this really enables repair anywhere, anytime, 24/7, around the clock, around the world. Augmented by in-person events. So for some reason you're tentative about doing it remotely, we can say, well, let's get it started, or you need this part, get the part, bring it to an in-person event. And so these are high schoolers in Fremont, California, who are repairing a KitchenAid mixer for the local community food bank. That's pretty cool. And they did it totally via Discord. They also repaired this public speaker PA system for the San Leandro Public Library. This is something I'm really working on right now, which is this idea that all these school systems bought Chromebooks during the pandemic. And the thing about Chromebooks is they have this automatic update expiry date. When that happens, basically the school system has to stop using it because it can no longer be registered in Google's enterprise enrollment system, which is what all the school systems use to manage the Chromebooks. The sad story about Chromebooks is that they are actually reusable as general purpose computers, but you have to modify them slightly internally. You have to open them up and change something. And most computer refurbishers who are getting these don't want to put the labor into doing that. There's not enough value to them to doing that. So what's happening instead, my understanding, is that they're going to Vietnam, Indonesia, and the Philippines, where they're being harvested for the 1 or 2 good computer chips that are still inside the machines, and the rest is being e-wasted there. So we're exporting them, and we really shouldn't be doing that. So, let's talk about why we need right to repair. So one of the other presenters talked about Apple being positive in this way. I beg to differ. So, Apple actually went as far as to put a special type of screw. They made their own proprietary screw design on the outsides of their devices. And they use standard Phillips head screws inside once you can get past their proprietary screws. So the only reason I think they're doing this is to basically port repair. Somebody else mentioned the problems with our love of electronics is that we want portable electronics with batteries. Well, the batteries are made of lithium ion, and lithium ion is this volatile chemistry that if it's damaged, if the battery is damaged, it can go into what's called thermal runaway and catch fire. And these sorts of fires are happening not just in the garbage trucks, but at the MRFs, the municipal reclamation facilities all over the United States. The person who runs the city of Burbank just reported to me that she's experiencing 3 fires a week now because people have just tossed their smartphone in the garbage. It doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot to crush one and make it basically cause a fire like that. So there's something to be said about our consumption. I mean, the manufacturers would say, hey, the consumers want these lightweight portable devices, so that we're just giving them what they want. But in my opinion, we really need to think about re-engineering this kind of battery chemistry completely. Same way we did with BPA plastics and with CFCs. We need to look at this and say, this is just too dangerous. We can't keep this in our civilization. There's also all the digital equity, digital literacy, digital inclusion aspects of repair. So for example, imagine if her family photos were on that hard drive, how hard that would be. But even beyond that, for most people now, our access to healthcare and to banking is on these devices. So it's brittle. I mean, when they work great. But when they don't work, if they fail and we can't get them fixed right away, or we don't have a backup, we don't have multiple devices, we don't have some other way to sort of work with, get access to these digital services, things can spiral downhill really, really fast. So we have to think a lot about how that aspects, our inability to repair these things impacts not just us, but how we are going to shape our society going forward if we expect people to be able to engage with services and stuff through these kinds of devices. And I'm going to pick on the phone company again. So the latest versions of their phones they've actually serialized the internal components so they're mated to that specific instance of the phone. So what that means is that you could go down to the Apple store today, buy 2 brand new iPhone 14s, take them apart, take the same component from both, swap them, put the phones back together, and neither phone will work. It also means that there's absolutely no possibility for anybody to provide third-party parts because only Apple knows the codes that it needs to mate it back to your phone. And that's part of the reason why we hold a lot of fix-it clinics now in conjunction with the colleges and universities to teach the next generation of engineers and designers how to design for durability, maintainability, serviceability, repairability from the get-go at the same time they're teaching design for manufacturing. And so what better way to understand the way things are designed for a built world now than to interrogate the ones that we have in service. So to open up, look at it and say, well, if it was just designed in this other way, it could be much more durable. So there's this idea of repair being a militant or revolutionary act. But honestly, I think it's just about sort of our curiosity for the world around us, and especially the things that we rely on. And that whether you're 16 or 60, not only should you be able to fix your own phone, but it should be easy to do it. So that we can have less of this kind of mindless product churn going on and more of this going on. I mean, she encapsulates, you know, she's self-actualized, she's inquisitive, she's empowered, she's determined, she's fearless. I think she's all the things that we want for ourselves in our shared future. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It shows that there are many different ways to solve the climate and zero waste problem. I'm going to pin all 3 of our speakers as well as me. And anyone who's in the audience, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or raise your hand. And I currently don't see any questions in the chat or any raised hands, but I do have a couple of prepared questions. My first question is all 3 of you have talked a lot about your successes, but I'm very curious about the challenges and the failures that you faced before you got to your success, because I think all 3 of you were invited to this panel because of your successes, but I want to normalize failure and show that there are many different pitfalls before you get to your to be on this panel. So let's talk a little bit about failure and talk a little bit about challenges. Romina, do you want to start?
Yeah, happy to go ahead. So I'll get started just talking about the innovation aspect. So it's very hard, and breaking entrepreneurship space and just starting somewhere yourself and then coming as a Latina founder, it's very difficult navigating that, and it's sometimes very lonely. So it's definitely taken some time to kind of build a network and find people that you trust that can help you and can mentor you and just help you get where you want to be. And another aspect has just been education itself. So for instance, in our space that a lot of us, I suppose, we get asked a lot about why not just recycling and why not composting? Why is that not enough? Like, we already have those systems. Why do we need to go on reuse? And so just kind of explaining all about what our current infrastructure looks like, what are the challenges around that, why it doesn't work and it's not enough, and we need to tackle the problem at its source. So, and definitely a lot more challenges along the way that we've encountered. But yeah, those are some of the main ones that we've seen.
Thank you. And then Mary?
Yeah, I definitely agree. The education component, it's very difficult to I guess, encourage people to kind of explore the different possibilities and kind of, I don't know, I feel like people are very hesitant to change, and that's a big thing that is very difficult to change people's minds on.
Thank you. That's definitely true. And then Peter?
Geez, I'm always learning. Okay, I mean, and I feel like I teach what I need to learn. So I think it's everything I say everything I do is an experiment. So I'm constantly trying to test my hypotheses about something and see if I can't run some cheap and dirty quick experiment to try and prove or disprove some sub hypotheses of the grander thesis.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of cheap and dirty experiments that you can run, and they're definitely going to be failures for those experiments. And when you find those successes, you want to send them to, people in your network. And then my next question is, what is some advice you give to a student or young professional who's interested in being in your path? I know a couple of you have had some advice in your presentations, but if you have anything else to add to that. Well, I guess we could start with Peter.
I would say that whenever I do something, I try to think, like, what am I going to learn from this that's going to make me more useful, or all right. So what my advice to young people about taking work is that when you take a job, think about not what you're going to do in that job, but what you're going to learn at that job. Think two or three jobs ahead. Think, what am I going to learn at this job that's going to make me that much more valuable to the next employer? But I was trying to take the money part out of it and say it was really more about what experiences am I going to gain that are going to make me that much more of a better person, going forward. So try a lot. Anyway, that's my advice.
Thank you. Yeah, and then also just like interacting with the right mentors and like making sure that you build a network that you're proud of. And then Mary.
Yeah, I'm still pretty young, so like I don't know, I guess to like other like high schoolers, maybe just try a lot of different things and see like what sticks and what you really like, because I think like a lot of people don't really know what they want to do until pretty late, so it's good to like explore and just meet new people and talk to people about what they do and what they love, and I think you can be really inspired by that.
Yeah, I really regret in high school not doing robotics and not doing coding and not doing all those things. But yeah, I definitely echo that to any high schoolers or college students. It's never too late to figure out what you're really passionate about. Romina?
Yeah, so yeah, if you don't know yet exactly what you want to dive into, that's totally fine. So just get involved and talk to your professors, reach out to like local organizations that you are interested in, if you're not exactly sure that that's what you want to go into. And I guess just stay curious. So try out new things. I think trying and failing is really the best way to learn and grow, and just like really understand what you are passionate about and what you care about, and then just go out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, I totally agree. And also in this day and age, we have stuff like LinkedIn, where you can just contact random people, maybe not like vice presidents and presidents, but people who are interns, people who are like fellows, who have the time to chat with you about the internship, or chat with you about the fellowship, to get you in the door to where you're looking to be. And then on that note, we do have a Jamboard with contacts of all of our speakers that we're going to be adding to the chat, but this will also be linked into the main chat as well as the post-Convergence emails. And I think that is time. Thank you so much for everyone for participating and listening to our presentations. Max, thank you for adding the Jamboard. And then I think we're going to have a link to the main hall where we're going to all converge together and hang out and eat lunch together. Yep, that is the link for networking in the main hall for lunch. And I'll see everyone in the main hall. Thank you so much for speaking and attending, and we'll see you soon. Bye.